Today we're going to focus on the fact that the dollar, the US dollar, is dead. I've been saying this for quite a while on multiple shows, but what does that mean? Why should you care? And most importantly, what can you do to prepare? First off, when I talk about what does that mean when I say the dollar is dead? Well, because of things like government spending and deficits, they're spending more than they have, so they've got to put more money into the system. And that's causing inflation along with other things. So as your money sits in the bank, it's buying less and less over time, so it's losing its value. And now other countries are losing confidence in the US dollar because it's backed by the United States government. The United States government isn't being fiscally responsible and is running up trillions of dollars in debt on a yearly basis. Take a look at this. If you're not familiar, there's been an effort from other countries to try to use the US dollar less. You may not know this, but the US dollar is not just used within the United States. It's used throughout the world, particularly in trade among nations. So there's this alliance that propped up a while ago called BRICS. It is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South America, that's the BRICS, and other countries, where their effort is to devalue the US dollar and not use it as much among their own trade. Maybe even come up with their own sort of currency, who knows? But at the moment, they're trying to add more countries, and they're trying to trade amongst themselves more and use the dollar less. So they'll become less dependent on the US government. Now, that hurts those of us that have dollars because the dollar's not being used as much, and other countries aren't as confident in it. And because of that, if the dollar is being used less throughout the world, it's going to lose value. And when it comes to things like sanctions that the US may place on other countries, it's going to become more difficult to do that. So if there are bad actors out there that we're not happy with, sometimes we used to be able to strangle them financially. We may no longer be able to do that. So take a look at these real quick, these articles recently on BRICS. The first one here is April 27th. They're talking about adding new member countries. In other words, BRICS is trying to expand. Same day, look at this, $260 billion in trade without the US dollar. So they're able to conduct trade without using the US dollar. So they're becoming less reliant on it. That's the idea. The initiative is to become less reliant and devalue it. Therefore, the US doesn't have as much control or power throughout the world, and our dollar loses even more value. Here's just an example recently. They talk about the amount of oil sold between Iran and China because of this alliance. Not sure that's a good thing. And then there's a little bit of hope in that one of the recent candidates, of course, Trump, wants to eliminate it and or fight it, that is BRICS, and try to maintain the US dollar dominance. What can you do? Well, every Friday I go over what I call a basket of goods. When it comes to the proportion, or the portion I should say, of your portfolio that is typically just savings. It might be emergency savings, 3 months expenses, 6 months expenses, whatever makes you comfortable in case you were to lose your job, or the air conditioning unit on your home were to go out, or the car may need a major repair. Some of that you're probably going to keep in local currency. For those of you watching in the US, the US dollar. But then if your savings is growing, what I do is I look at other things like gold and silver because they're hedges against inflation. So if over time, because of inflation, the dollars in your bank account are losing value, you want them to maintain their value or go up. So oftentimes people will buy other things like gold and silver, and I also go over cryptocurrency, particularly Bitcoin, because it's considered to be a store of value by some. None of my videos are financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm letting you know that every Friday we say, okay, if we've got a chunk of savings, how can we maybe keep some in dollars for immediate needs, potentially rotate CDs and treasuries? How will that do against inflation? You're keeping dollars in there, but every couple months, one's coming due and you rotate them. And then what about currency, commodities like gold and silver and things like crypto? So that's what you can do to try to guard against having a chunk of money in the bank just losing value over time, because it loses value real fast. Or as some like to say, I saw Michael Saylor say that in the US, you're just getting poorer slower than other countries because our inflation isn't quite as bad. But let's not that happen to your hard-earned dollars. So I hope you will subscribe so you don't miss future videos. I do this a couple times a week, soon to be every day. I always say the government doesn't care about you, banks don't care about you, no one's looking out for you but you. So for the best interest of you and your family, you got to get your finances in order. You got to get out of debt so you're not wasting that money. Have a great day and hope this has been helpful.